In this video, we're going to look at one of the most essential hooks in React. So if you came across this video, then I know you like programming. So you can do me a favor by hitting that subscribe button for more high quality coding videos. Now in this video, we're going to look at the useState hook. So what is state? State is just data that changes over time in a React component. Let's look at a quick example. Right here, I have a counter and the current value is 0, and I want, every time I click this button here, I want this count to increment by 1. All right, so let's look at the code here. Now I will go to Visual Studio Code, which is my code editor, and this is the code I have written. So I have a div with a class name of content with a 0 there, and then I have a button with a class name of button. So, and then I applied a little bit of CSS to make it look a little bit better. All right, now let's go back to the app.jsx. All right, by the way, I made a video of how to set up a React application with Vite, and if you haven't checked that out, there's a link in the description of this video. You can check it out, and then you can come here and we can continue. Now, to update this count value, every time I click this button, what I'm going to do, I'm going to bring in the useState hook from React. Now I will import it. So I will simply say import useState, and this is coming from React. From React, like that. All right, so what is the useState hook? So the useState hook is just a function that returns an array of true values. The first value is the current state, and the second value is a function to update that state. All right, so what we can do, we can destructure those two. So we can say const, and then we can say state, which is the current state, and the second value here is a function. So we can say set state, and this equals to the useState, and the useState is a function, so we have to call it. And inside here we can pass the initial state, a default state. So because we are working with a count here, which is a number, we always want to start with 0. So 0 is the current state here. Now because we are working with a counter, I will rename this. So I will simply say count, and then here I will say set count, like that. All right, now what I want to do, I want every time I click this button, I change this state and I increment it by 1. Now we can create a function which updates this state. So we can simply say here function update count, and then here what we can do is that we can use the set count function here, and we can say set count equals to, and then we can take the count and then we can add 1. All right, now we can now come back here and we can simply say on click, which is an on click event listener. We can now call our update count function, like that. All right, now inside here, instead of just showing this 0, what we can do, we can add our curly brackets and render the count here, which is coming from state. Right, now let me go back to the browser, refresh, and now every time I click this count button, you can see the count is increasing by 1. Every time I click it, it's increasing by 1. Now if I refresh the page, the state is going to be reset because it stores the count in the memory. Now it resets it to the initial state. So for example, I can change the initial state here. I can change it to 10, like that, and if I go back, you can see now if I refresh, it starts at 10 instead of 0. Now if I keep on clicking this button, it increases by 1. If I refresh the page, the state is going to reset and it starts at 10 because 10 is the initial state. Now state can also work with the objects and arrays, and let's do that. So what I want to do, I want to create an object here. So I can simply say that I can rename this to user, and then instead of set count, I can say set and then user, like that. And then in the initial state, I can pass in my user as an object. I can do that, and I can simply say the name of this user is going to be John. Say John, and then I'm going to give this user an age of 20 years old. And then inside here, instead of rendering the count like this, what I'm going to do, I'm going to say JSON, then dot stringify, then here I'm going to pass in the user, and then I'm going to say null 2, so that I can get a good render of this user like this on the browser as JSON. And you can see I have a user with name John and the age of 20. All right, so what I want to do, I want to update this user's name. So instead of update count, I'm going to rename this to update user, like that. And now instead of set count here, I can simply say set user. So we are updating the user. Now here, what we can do, we can get the previous user, and this access this current state here. So we can simply say previous user, and then there we want to return, and here we can now update this user. So we can simply do is we can pass in an object, and what I want to do, I want to copy the current user. So I'll use the spread operator, and the current user here, we have the previous user, so we can say previous user, and then now we can pass in the value we want to change. For example, I want to change the name to maybe Mike, like that. All right, now instead of calling the update count, which doesn't exist, we can now call the update and then user, right? And then I can also rename this button. Instead of count, we can say update the user, and I'm going to save that. Now if we go to the browser, you can see that the UI has changed. Now if I click update user, now you can see the name changes from John to Mike. Let me do that again, refresh to reset the state. I'm going to click again the update user, and you can see the state changes. So we have Mike now. We can also do arrays. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to change this to an array. So I can say like that, an array, and here I'm going to have a mango, just some random fruits, and I'm going to have a banana. I'm going to say banana, like that. All right, so here I'm going to say this, I'm going to call this fruits, and then here I'm going to say set fruits. All right, now instead of update user, I can say update fruits, and then here instead of calling update user, I can call the update fruits function. Now here I can simply say set fruits, and here I have access to the previous fruits. Say previous fruits, and then here I can change that also to previous fruits, like that. And then what I want to do here, I want to add another fruit here. So what I'm going to add is an apple. I'm going to add an apple here. So here I can add an apple, like that. And now this here, we can change it into an array instead of an object, like that. All right, I'm going to save this. Now here, instead of rendering the user who doesn't exist, we can render the fruits, like that. And then here we can say update and then fruits, so fruits, and then I'm going to save that. Now I believe everything is correct. Now if you go to the browser, you can see we have mango and a banana. Now every time I click this button, an apple is added. Every time I click it, an apple is added. Every time I click it, an apple is added. And we can go on and 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 on, like that. All right, so if you found this video helpful, consider subscribing to my channel and like this video to help us with the algorithm and I'll see you in the next one. So in the next video, I'm going to talk about advanced state management with state management libraries, and we're going to fetch data, update that state, and do all that stuff. So if you don't want to miss out, make sure you hit the subscribe button and like this video.